Step 1 of cellular respiration is...
Nice selection. Glycolysis is the correct and valid answer.
Fermentation and aerobic respiration produce different amounts of AP. What is the correct pairing of amount of AP produced?
Exactly. Fermentation equal to 2, aerobic respiration equal to 36 makes sense, and it is right choice.
When energy-depleted elements associated with a proton are accepted by an organic molecule, the process is called... You got it. Your choice fermentation is right. Lactic acid fermentation occurs in your muscles after a workout because your cells are struggling to get.
Smart move. Oxygen is an accurate answer.
Which end product of fermentation causes the burning feeling in muscles that are working hard? Correct. Lactic acid is the right answer.
Which organisms use alcoholic fermentation to allow glycolysis to continue to produce AP?
Right again. Yeasts is a valid answer. Which types of respiration are useful in increasing the amount of gas in a food product? Well picked. Fermentation producing carbon dioxide and ethanol only is the correct answer. Alcoholic fermentation is different than lactic acid fermentation in that it gives off.
Right choice. Carbon dioxide is the best answer.
What do we call a concentrated number of microorganisms used to start fermentation? Perfect. Starter culture is the correct choice. Which end product of alcoholic fermentation is important in the baking industry? Good job. Your answer, carbon dioxide, works well here. During which step of cellular respiration is the majority of the AP created? Woo! Excellent choice. ITSE is the right answer. Identify the correct sequence during the industrial production of substances. You're right. Screening, inoculation, fermentation, downstream processing, removal of waste is the correct answer. What is always the first step in cellular energy production? Good thinking. Glycolysis is the right answer. What cells in the body may undergo lactic acid fermentation during exercise? Smart pick. Muscle cells is the correct choice.
What are the general applications of fermentation in the food industry?
Correct response. Yogurt, cheese, bread, beer, sauerkraut is the most accurate answer. Which of the following processes can occur in the absence of oxygen?
Well reasoned. Lactic acid fermentation is the correct choice.
The gas responsible for puffing up appearance of dough comes from... Well done. Fermentation is the right choice. Which process in aerobic cellular respiration makes the most AP? Great thinking. ITSE is the right choice. In the absence of oxygen, which process comes after glycolysis? Valid point. Fermentation is true. What type of living thing did we use to observe fermentation? Bravo. Yeast is the answer. What are microorganisms feed to produce fermentation in food? Nicely done. Sugars and water is a solid answer. What molecule must not be present for fermentation to occur? Nice work. You chose oxygen and it is correct. Fermentation is cellular respiration without which molecule? Clear logic. Your choice O2 is sound and 100% true.
What is the main advantage of solid substrate fermentation?
On track. All of the above is the correct answer.
Packages and distributes items made by ribosomes and the air. Strong choice. Golgi apparatus is the right answer.
What phrase best describes the main role of fermentation? Solid response. Allow glycolysis to continue making small amounts of AP is a valid choice.
Which organisms can be used in solid-state fermentation? Excellent. Both A and B is a brilliant choice. Which of the following is not a product of fermentation? Great job. Oxygen is the accurate answer. When respiration occurs with oxygen, it is called dash.
You chose aerobic, and it is correct. What are the applications of solid-state fermentation?
Sharp thinking. All of the above is the right choice. What is the most common product of yeast fermentation?
Solid response. Carbon dioxide is a valid choice. Which of the following process does not require oxygen? Correct response. Fermentation is the most accurate answer.
Among these foods which are produced by fermentation, A. Clear logic. Your choice bread, vinegar and cheese is sound and 100% true.
Identify the correct sequence in fermentation process.
You're right. Screening of microbe, inoculation, fermentation, downstream, removal of waste is the correct answer.
Why does fermentation occur if oxygen is not present? Great thinking. It recycles NAD to NAD+ is the right choice.
What is a disadvantage of fermentation as a process? Great job. It only produces 2 ADP is the accurate answer. How can fermentation be used in biofuel production? Exactly. Fermentation converts biomass sugar into ethanol for biofuel production makes sense, and it is right choice.
What do microorganisms reject during fermentation?
You got it. Your choice acid. Gas or alcohol is right.
What is the main product of alcohol fermentation?
Well done. Ethanol and carbon dioxide is the right choice.
What is one of the oldest forms of preservation?
Correct. Fermentation is the right answer.
Which process is used to produce beer and wine?
Smart move. Alcoholic fermentation is an accurate answer.
Mention 2 types of fermentation processes.
On track. Alcohol fermentation. Lactic acid fermentation is the correct answer. What type of pH slows or stops fermentation?
Nice selection. Acidic is the correct and valid answer.
Which phrase about fermentation is correct?
Smart pick. Takes place without oxygen is the correct choice.
Which one is not a fermentation process?
Strong choice. Distillation is the right answer.
What is mainly the fermentation of food?
Nice work. You chose to conservation, and it is correct. How many fermentation types are there? Well reasoned. 2 is the correct choice.
Which is correct about fermentation?
Perfect. Take place without oxygen is the correct choice. One cause of muscle soreness is Nicely done. Lactic acid fermentation is a solid answer.
How you will get all these quiz questions in PDF books format.
Bravo! Contact Narayan Changder is the answer.